Hi, Stephan, and thank you for joining Shoes in Bitcoin.
Hi, Valeria. Thanks for having me.
So it's a huge pleasure having in mind. I've been waiting for quite some time to have this conversation with you. So I do really appreciate your time that you're spending today with me. As far as I have understood, you're from Australia, but right now you're in the United States. Am
That's
I
right.
right? Okay. Where are you exactly?
So right now I'm in Nashville, actually. So I'm here for a Students for Liberty conference. It's called Freer Future Festival. So that's why I was here. But last night I was also at the Nashville Bitcoin meetup. So it was Matt Odell and me as the guest speakers or panelists, if you will. And so we just had a Bitcoin privacy panel last night. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of travel nowadays. I'm kind of more of a nomad just because of Bitcoin conferences and different events all over. And also because I don't want to go back to Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a little bit complicated right now compared to the other locations on the earth. But what about, let's talk about the positive things. What about this conference that you have attended yesterday evening? I would love to know more if you can share some details. How was it? How many people did attend it?
Yeah. So you mean the meetup or the conference? Because I also just recently came from Oslo Freedom Forum as well.
Your agenda is, yeah, tiny. Okay. So whatever I would love to hear for both events if it's possible, if you can share.
Sure, sure. So I was just recently at HRF, Human Rights Foundation. They are
Okay.
focused on human rights advocacy and activism. And so I was just over in Miami for that. And so we had basically the main stage was human rights activists, and then they had a Bitcoin Academy as well, sort of in the second half of the day where people could learn about Bitcoin. And
And
so
sorry for the interruption. This association for the human rights, is it Alex Gladstein?
yes, that's right. So
Okay.
Alex Gladstein, yeah. So
Okay.
that's the one that he's a part of. So as part of that, we were there teaching Bitcoin to people. And so I was teaching Bitcoin to activists and people who had banking issues. And so I was demonstrating Lightning for them and teaching them how to, how Bitcoin works, what it is, things like that, as well as a session that I ran with Jimmy Song called Who Controls Bitcoin. So yeah, that was really great. It was good opportunity to just talk to people from a different, like they're not necessarily Bitcoin people, but talk to people from that human rights world. And so it was just an opportunity to learn from them and the stories that they have, and also how they were able to share their story as well. So I think it was very much a focus on stories, and so that's something that I think is more emotionally engaging for people. So yeah, so that was a couple of days event, and there were dinners and various events around that. And then day before yesterday, I got into Nashville, and so last night we had the Nashville Bitcoin meetup. And so that was very recently put on. So this meetup group, I think it's only been around a month or so, because they had the first meetup and this was literally their second meetup. And so it was a really big turnout because Bitcoin Magazine is actually based in town as well. So we had a bunch of people from Bitcoin Magazine come along, and I think they sponsored some of the drinks as well
Mhm.
at
Very
the
nice.
meetup. And so Rod, the meetup organizer, Rod and Mills, so were the organizers, put it on, and basically it was just a little panel discussion. So it was mostly around Bitcoin privacy, but just about Bitcoin development as well, because there are different levels in terms of who was attending the meetup. Some people were very beginner level, and some people were more advanced level. So it's
You're
always
talking about their technical competences and their
right, yeah,
capabilities.
and their knowledge of Bitcoin. And so for some people, it's, I guess that's always a challenging thing that I find, because sometimes you'll be talking to an audience, but there'll be a big range. So then
Right.
you want to make sure you're talking to the right level. If you're talking to too technical, the beginners will tune out. But then for the more advanced people, they might want to hear more technical material. So that can be uh, interesting
Yeah,
there.
definitely. Definitely. It's very good. I would love we to talk about that. I see you're engaged in lots of education related activities. So this is something that I see the majority of people who are well known in the industry have started working in that direction with a very, I would say, interesting and innovative yeah, initiatives yeah, in that direction. And yeah, you have over 100,000 followers on Twitter. This is a very big responsibility. lots of people are following you and are relying on your expertise and knowledge. It's great. Once again, thanks. It's a huge pleasure and honor to have you here. Uh, I'm from Bulgaria, so this is East Europe. Here,
Sure.
I'm not sure that many people know your name, so not so many people for sure. They know about Bitcoin. I would say the majority of young people, but they're not so much into it. The community is relatively small
Hmm.
here, and that's why I would love, if you don't mind, you to share, yeah, in short, your story and the way you have joined Bitcoin.
Okay, so I was already a libertarian and believed that central banking was very bad for the world and bad for society. So I was already anti-fiat money. So like most people, the first time you hear about Bitcoin, you disregard it. You just think, like, so in my case, I thought it was just like World of Warcraft gold or Fortnite V-Bucks, or it was just some stupid game money. I didn't really realize what it was. And so in December 2012, I came across an article that put it in a way that made sense for me. It was like, no, this is actually a challenge to central banking. This is what fiat, this is going to challenge fiat money longer term. And so that was what got me in. And so from then, I just couldn't stop thinking and talking about Bitcoin, basically. So from 2013 onwards, I was getting involved in Bitcoin and reading and writing and doing things in the space. And so then I had written a few things and I'd spoken at a few different events and Bitcoin meetups and things back in those days. But then I think the main thing that I became known for is my podcast, which obviously started much later. That only started in July 2018. And so as we speak
Okay.
today, I've got over 300 episodes on that. And that's arguably my main thing I'm known for. It's my quote unquote claim to fame in this space. Not that I really consider myself famous. I consider myself I'm known in the Bitcoin world, but outside of that, I'm not really known. So, there's different levels of reach that people have.
Yeah, definitely. However, if you type Bitcoin in Google, for sure your name is going to pop up. So you're famous. Okay. So your podcast is voice only. You don't. It's not with video.
Usually it's voice only, but I'm actually looking now at doing video as well. So some of those will have video and they're put up on YouTube as well.
Right.
So it's been a process because with the video, especially with me traveling and stuff, it's a bit harder.
Yeah.
But I am looking to do more video, but it's just kind of managing it along with all the other things that I'm doing at the same time is a bit tricky.
Yeah, I can completely understand you. However, I believe personally, I believe it's better people to see faces just because, yeah, it's private digital cash, so it's not, yeah, it's kind of anonymous, uh, but pseudonymous. Sorry, I'm on the very low
Mm-hmm.
level. I'm a beginner in uh, in learning Bitcoin. I have only 25 episodes with this one. That's what
Okay.
we are doing right now, and I have lots of things to learn. But yeah, it's good if people start associating Bitcoin with other human beings just to see faces,
Mm-hmm.
because this is how I know it's a trustless environment. However, this trust in the technology must be built by someone, and yeah, I I like watching videos, but this is my learning preference.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so there are different type of people, and they are learning in a different way. Um, very good. So we have 310 episodes so far. I do believe that you've met if not all of them, but the majority of the people in the industry from all over the world. And what is there something, if you have to make a summary of these performances for these years that you are doing um, these podcasts, what is
Mm-hmm.
your overall summary? Is it hard to make these 310 episodes? How many hours? 1 hour per episode? it's a huge amount of time and the preparation also.
Yeah, so for me, it's preparation time, it's audio production time, it's reviewing, it's getting transcripts made, it's reviewing transcripts, it's organizing things with sponsors, putting in sponsor messaging, putting in the intro and outro. There's all these little things that go into it, but
Right.
I think, and part of it is also just building up relations and having connections with people, because that will help you in terms of guests on the show, things like that. All of those things help. And for me, I treat it like it's continual education in the space. So it's continually committing to leveling up your knowledge, whether that is economic knowledge or technical knowledge or macro or something. It's continually leveling up. And so I think it's a big error when people just sort of stop learning. And sometimes people just randomly talk about stuff in the Bitcoin world without having gone and done that real level of learning and knowledge. And it's not to say that I'm perfect, that I know everything about Bitcoin, but we should be continually striving for that. And I think it's not good if people are talking about it without really having done it themselves or using things, like at least attempting to use things themselves, or get closer to that real on the ground experience.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it
I
means things
totally.
like learn how to
Mhm.
run a Bitcoin node, learn how to use hardware wallets, learn how to use CoinJoin, learn how to run your own BTC Pay. These are all things that I think are useful for people and very valuable, because otherwise it's just difficult for you to be able to make it relatable for people. So that's something that I've found, at least in my experience.
Definitely, you're absolutely right. However, me personally, I've been observing how to run a full note and a pruned note, and there is a difference. But I
Mm-hmm.
haven't done it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so with the hardware wallets, for sure, it's easier. I mean, for a person who does not have such technical literacy. This with the note is a little bit complicated to me. I mean, I cannot do it on my own. If I do it several times, maybe with a technical person, I will be
Mm.
capable to do it at the end on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, this with the BTC Pay server, I haven't also done it myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there was.
It is a journey though. So you start, and that's the thing with many of these things, you can get help. I think that's the other thing. A lot of people don't understand that you can go into these Telegram channels and ask for help. I've done it all the time. Like, it's not like I think people look at me as though I just know all this stuff magically. No, I go in the channel and I ask. So
Yeah.
there are times where I might not know how to set up BTC Pay, or I'll go into the BTC Pay Mattermost and I'll ask for some help, or hey, I'm trying to do it this way. And of course, people like, if you've done some work yourself, or if you go read the documentation, try it, and then if something goes wrong, then you go in that channel and ask. And generally, people are pretty helpful. So I think those are a few tips I would have for listeners out there that don't think it's beyond your reach. You can do it. You just have to give it a try, and then ask in a Telegram chat channel, or ask in a support channel somewhere for help.
Yeah, absolutely. People are very, very supportive on Telegram. Also on Twitter, if you ping someone privately, yeah, they are basically replying, the majority of them. I see, aside from running your own podcast, you are also involved in several other projects. And I'm
Yeah.
really curious, if you don't mind, me to start with the Ministry of Nodes. What does it
So
mean
yeah,
exactly?
so this one was basically, I'm still a co-founder. I'm still lightly involved, but this one actually is more being done by Catan now. But essentially, it's a service where we just offer calls, and people can just do a call and pay us whatever they thought it was worth at the end of the call. And it might be about running a Bitcoin node. It might be about how to do CoinJoin. It might be how to use your hardware wallet. Various things, but basically it's a consulting call service. And so this is something Catan and I started a couple of years ago now.
Mhm.
And basically it's just a Bitcoin education project. So
So this is
this
your
is,
Telegram.
sorry.
This is your Telegram where people can reach out to you and ask you how to run a full node, and you're going
Yeah,
to
so
be
you
there.
people can reach out and do calls. They can book in a call with Catan nowadays, just because I'm busy with a lot of my other stuff, so with my podcast and with Swan work. So nowadays, yeah, so there's articles here, there's YouTube guides. Katan's done some of those. I've written some articles on here. We do consulting calls. They're the main things that people can find on ministryofnodes.com.au. But yeah, so for me personally, now more of my time is on SLP, my podcast, and also on Swan Bitcoin stuff.
Right. Today I have read the newsletter, the monthly newsletter that you're releasing.
Yeah.
And I was about to ask you about the hottest topic right now, connected to China and the ban. The fact that China has already banned several times Bitcoin, and the fact that also the hashing power is back to close to the all-time high hashing power that has been accumulated so far. So, and I was curious to know more about your thoughts in case there is something else on top of that what I've read in the newsletter, because also I didn't know that the Federal Reserve Chairman, I have written here, Jeremy Powell, said that Bitcoin is store of value, and another senator, if I'm not mistaken, has also mentioned that they don't have any intentions to ban Bitcoin, and they, even if they have, they cannot do it.
Right. Yeah. So that was Jerome Powell, the U.S. Federal Reserve governor, saying basically essentially there was no intent to ban, and then also the SEC chairman Gary Gensler was the other one who also mentioned basically no intent to ban Bitcoin. So while some of the altcoins may be considered securities, and maybe a lot of them will be, Bitcoin is not a security. It's very uncontroversial and clear in the market and in the world. Bitcoin is not a security. And so that part is quite clear for people. And so I think that has given a lot more clarity for people, and that's made it easy for people. So we're seeing that I think we're seeing a lot more people come into Swan and Swan Private, the team that I'm a part of, where we are helping onboard high net worth individuals and companies who want to buy Bitcoin. And so to your point as well around the China ban, I think it's funny because this happens every year, right? This China ban thing. Anyone who's been around Bitcoin for a long enough time, they've seen the China ban story happen. And so I think the first time, people were more, I guess, scared of it. But then after they keep banning it, it's just not really, it's not really. I mean, I heard a really good take. It was the first time the first time was a ban, and every other time they're admitting they couldn't ban it. So what happened though is it looks like this time they were more serious about the mining aspect. And so it is really incredible that probably 40 to 50% of the network's hash rate came offline and now has come back online. And so now the hash rate has come, I think it's, I haven't checked recently, but I've seen some discussion essentially around 170, 180 exahash. So it's pretty much getting close to that all-time high. So by the end of the year, we'll be well and truly over that all-time high and back up. And so the network, when you think about it like this, the network did not get shut down. These Chinese government people were not able to stop the Bitcoin network from operating. And so it's an important thing.
Network for sure. Also having in mind there is also a satellite from Blockstream. I'm not a technical person. I cannot say it, but
so the way that works is you would be able to still download the nodes, right? You would be able to download the blockchain. So you would be able to run a Bitcoin node using Blockstream Satellite to download the blocks. However, you would still need an outgoing connection in order to transact. So the idea would be you can save your bandwidth by using the satellite connection to download, and then any transactions that you want to broadcast, you would do those on, say, a mobile network, but only a small amount of data is required for that. So that could go over like a 2G network, or maybe you could take the transaction hex, and if you can get online, you could broadcast that using blockstream.info as an example. And so that's part of what that's doing. But I think what we were talking about is also the mining network, the mining hash power. So much of that hash power coming offline and now moving into other countries, especially the USA and potentially and many other countries like Kazakhstan and others, where mining has come back online. And interestingly as well, even I think Iran first like at one point they were banning it, and now they've said it's allowed again. So it is a back and forth situation there, but it
I
seems
think
like, yeah, they realize that they can't stop this thing.
I think if I'm not wrong, something similar has happened with India also. I think they have banned it.
I think the Indian government has also gone back and forth in terms of banning things, or at least trying to stop payment processors from processing Bitcoin related fiat transactions. So though they of course weren't able to stop the Bitcoin network, but they were able to maybe stem the flow of people trying to go in and buy it. However, that's not always successful, because if you look at what happened in Nigeria or in Pakistan, same sort of thing happened where they tried to stop it and ban it, but then it just drove massive use of peer-to-peer. And so then they had to walk it back and then say, oh, actually, okay, it's not banned, because it ends up just driving more and more peer-to-peer trade and volume. And especially in a country with high inflation or very strong authoritarian governments, people have even more incentive to get Bitcoin. And so it's like governments are trying to shut off. It's like they've set off a fire inside the theater, and then they're trying to block off the exit doors.
Right.
That's essentially what they're doing.
Happening in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken, right now.
So yeah, Turkey also has a similar story in some ways, because Turkey obviously are going through a very bad currency inflation bout, and people are a lot of people are buying Bitcoin, and so the Turkish president has come out talking badly about Bitcoin, but nevertheless, I don't think they've been able to really stop the Bitcoin trade there. So, and I don't think they've banned it there, but I think they've spoken negatively about it. Because what happens, here's the reason why, right? Like, so governments often, they will, or politicians will often blame the free market or blame someone else, because they want to play the blame game and pass the buck. They don't want to take accountability for what they've done in terms of inflationary policies or very big government spending. They don't want to take accountability. That's just not how governments operate. They would rather push that and say, oh, it was your fault. It was these speculators, or it was these Bitcoin people. It was something else. So that's unfortunate, but it is also to be expected.
Right, so I'm often being called a speculator, and that's what I'm doing is connected to speculation. So far, I'm learning only, and I'm trying to stay away from being speculative. But sometimes I'm also very bullish on Bitcoin on Twitter, of course. Like,
of course.
the majority of the people who are getting excited, not looking at the price on daily basis. This is something for sure I'm not doing. But yeah, so back to China. But basically, they have this great firewall of China, which is a way they're blocking the people, all the citizens there, to get access also to Facebook, Google, Amazon. It's not only connected to Bitcoin. This is just their way of operating in the country. But right now with this COVID-19, with the green passes, it's, I don't know, this mass surveillance, I would say, that is happening all over the world, with tracking people, where are they, what are they doing. So I'm afraid, I'm not sure how we're going to manage this situation, and how many people actually are working on the opposite direction to have some freedom at the end of the day, because Bitcoin is about freedom. And yeah, right now, after this crisis, I would say, or I'm not an economist, and this might be a little kind of speculative for me. So, however, if there is kind of inflation on not only on several in several countries, but on global level, so Bitcoin, if I'm right, has been created with that purpose, to save people from the next crisis back in 2008, when the white paper was created. So how do you see the let's say, the mass adoption of Bitcoin, how fast people are going to accept its existence and to understand it's nothing dangerous and they can rely on this technology.
For me, I don't have a crystal ball, but sometime I think in the 10, let's call it 10 years, something in that time range, roughly, is I think quite likely. Just given how crazy things have gotten, I think things will have accelerated very quickly just because of all the hysteria and the high government debt. And so what happens is when people can't get enough of a return out of bonds, out of other things that they're buying, they will naturally start thinking more seriously about Bitcoin. And it's interesting because even here in America, when I've been going around, like people just are much more open-minded to the idea of Bitcoin. For example, if I talk to the Uber driver and mention, oh, I'm going for a Bitcoin conference or whatever, they might ask me about Bitcoin, and they're a bit more open to it. So they might not have much Bitcoin or really know much about it at all, but they do sense that fiat inflation is rising very dramatically. And so they will be open-minded to the idea of Bitcoin because it is the only real alternative.
Right. Thank you, Stephan, for sharing these insights and your personal thoughts. I would love, if you don't mind, we to discuss a little bit Swan as a service. Exactly, is it only for United States or people?
So it is available internationally. There are a few countries that we can't serve just based on things like sanctions rules, but basically it is available all over the world. Now, the retail stacking or Bitcoin savings plan stuff is best done in the US in terms of having, if you want the ACH account pool. So basically, it's best for in terms of people who want to regularly stack a regular amount. That's probably the easiest to do that is if you're a US customer with a US bank account, because then it automatically pulls from the bank account, purchases Bitcoin, and withdraws it to your cold storage. Now, it is available internationally using wires. So of course, if you're in the US, you can wire into us also. And so that's probably the main aspect where it's available. And so we have Swan Private as well, which is an increased level of service. These individuals will get, these customers will get a one-on-one Bitcoin account expert. They'll have somebody helping them, walking them through, holding their hand in terms of how to buy Bitcoin, how to secure it, and things like that. They will get guidance and tips on self-custody and all manner of things like that. And with Swan, we really focus on education as well. So that's something that we do. We've got a newsletter. We've got Swan Private Insight, which is a special research report that goes out for our Swan Private customers. We have podcasts. We have all sorts of other material out there, and just community engagement that we're doing in terms of ways to build a community and put out Bitcoin education material, as well as answer some of the critiques that are out there in terms of things like Bitcoin energy use and things like that. So Swan as a product works for most people around the world. You just have to be able to wire in US dollars. So that's probably the main aspect there. And so a lot of my time is spent dealing with customers on calls. So I'll be dealing with high net worth individuals and with companies who want to buy Bitcoin with us at Swan. So they'll get in touch with us. They'll go to swanprivate.com or swanbitcoin.com and sign up on the form and basically start stacking with us. So the other interesting thing is that we very much focus on this idea of saving for the long term. So it's all about saving for the long term. There's not even a sell button on the platform currently. So it's all about buying and holding for the long term, right? That's basically what the service is. Now, you can, if you request, you can sell. Like, so if you put in a customer support request, you can sell, but
so you mean it's custodian, the private keys are not transferred to the people's personal.
So it starts out on so you can instantly withdraw if you wire in funds. So basically we have a custodian, or we work with a custodian, Prime Trust, who to hold it for people when they're starting, and then later when they're ready, they can withdraw to their self-custody. And that's something that we have resources on our side, and we will even encourage them to learn about self-custody. But it starts for some people, they simply just start with a custodial account with us.
Yeah, it's absolutely normal. Absolutely normal. Okay, and if you can, only if it's possible, to share some numbers around how many people are using your service.
I don't know if I could share the exact numbers and things like that, but I mean, we have a lot of people who've signed up with us. We've got, like it's well into the tens of thousands in terms of people. Like I think we've got over 100,000 signed up on our email newsletter as well. So we're rapidly growing, right? Because we have just, I think, we've just hit the, I guess, the market well in terms of being able to be a very easily recommended service. So a lot of people are happy to refer us because they might be stacking with us and then refer us for their friends and family because they know we'll teach them about Bitcoin, and we take that focus. So I think because of that, we have really grown pretty rapidly.
Very, very good. There must be, and there are also in Europe, there are people who have started, entrepreneurs who have started exploring the market and providing such type of services, which is very good because this is the only way, via education, step by step, with these 360 degrees of possibilities for the people, because they have different level of knowledge. And it's, at the end of the day, it's a big value, it's money. So me personally, I feel kind of fearful doing things on my own without seeing in advance how it works. Just because,
right. And I think a lot of people do just need a bit of hand holding. So they just need someone there to just tell them, yeah, you're on the right track. Here you go, do this, or set up your hardware wallet, or set up your buying plan. These are all things that people often, they need a little bit of a hand holding. And for some people as well, if they're not very tech savvy, it takes some time for them. So it's all just part of that process for them. But typically what happens is, as the market price is running up, people will get rid of their prior inhibitions and just get started stacking, right? So what happens is people might have first had a light awareness of Bitcoin, but then when the price starts running up, that's when they start running in because they're thinking, oh no, I don't want to miss out. Okay, let's just do it. Let me sign up. And so it can be very lumpy in terms of people coming in and out.
Yeah, and there is FOMO and greed factor also.
Yeah.
Okay. And this greed factor is based on what? When this is happening, it's always, it's not only when the price is up.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you need a long-term thesis on Bitcoin. So these things just take time because people have to do their learning. Not everybody is willing to go and listen to the podcast or read the books, but that's what it takes. And funnily enough, that's actually what's probably the most profitable thing you can do, is learn to build your conviction in Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Stephan. And could you please share? So most probably this is kind of a venture capital. Join our angel list syndicate. So here you're part.
Yeah. So this one is bitcoinadventures.com, and basically this is an investment syndicate for people who want to be able to put money into well-known Bitcoin companies or into companies that might not otherwise get funding. So the idea is that it's for accredited investors. And so you join on Angel List, and you can find the links all on bitcoinadventures.com. And basically people who want to invest in these companies along with us, and we take zero carry. So we take no fees, no carry to us. There is platform fees, but that doesn't go to us. That goes to Angel List. And then basically people are able to invest in a small chunk. It might be a few $1,000s, it might be $5,000, it might be $10,000 into a company as part of a round. So we might have invested. So in the past, we've invested in Breeze, we've invested in Unchained Capital. And so basically there will be deals that come up in the space, or there might be a company that's raising funds. And then some of the investors in our syndicate can participate in that round by investing.
Right, very, very good. So there is no minimum investment. Are you preparing kind of know your investor for sure?
Oh, so generally, I think the minimum investment would be, I think it's $1,000. And basically, this is only for accredited investors. So in order to join this syndicate, you pretty much have to already be an accredited, well, you have to be already an accredited investor. So the AngelList platform does that certification, but basically, in many cases, I think you can actually self-certify. So you can say my net assets or my income is above this, therefore I'm accredited. So let me in the platform and let me invest. And so basically, you can join the platform, join the syndicate that way.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. And Stephan, if you don't mind, at the end of our conversation, I would love to ask you, how are you managing all these variety of projects with all these clients demands? What are you doing in your free time just to manage this stress? Because Bitcoin can be, this environment can be very stressful if the person does not have the right balance in life.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, for me, right now it's a pretty intense period. I'm out on the road traveling all the time and booking hotels and doing things. But I have help, right? So the team at Swan help with various things. I have an assistant to help me with things like podcast stuff. Well, I have two assistants actually. So for me, I just spend a lot of time doing Bitcoin things, but I love doing Bitcoin things. So it's all right. And so for me, I can sort of scale that time commitment up and down as I need to. And that is basically how I manage it. So in terms of what I do outside, I mean, reading, I might occasionally watch like some YouTube stuff. Might watch, like see family and do stuff with them. If I like I was just recently in Sri Lanka actually, so I was with some family there, and then after this round of travel, I'll probably end up going back to Sri Lanka actually. So probably be back. So I've got a few conferences on like now and over the next month or two, and then I'll be going back to Sri Lanka to hang out there for a bit, see family and things like that, and then probably early next year, back out on the road traveling again. So we'll see.
Very good. And Sri Lanka sounds like the balance is in your blood. So you don't need...
Yeah, I mean, I was born in Sri Lanka, but I was raised in Australia. So I have family back in Sri Lanka. So, and I don't want to go back to Australia given the craziness there. So basically I'm staying out.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's what's happening with the people and this violence. That's why you are meeting the right people over there, and Alex Gladstein and this Human Rights Foundation. So I hope I'll have him also as a guest. I've written to him, so he's willing also to talk to me. Thank you very much, Stephan. I do really appreciate this time that you've spent with me, and hope to meet you one day during all these conferences around the world that are happening.
Yeah, for sure. I might be, we'll see. But there's a chance I'll be over in Europe next year with the conferences. So maybe I'll see you then.
Definitely, for sure. Keep in touch, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.